In early 2024, it was announced that Ionna, a new electric vehicle charging network, had formed with the intention of blanketing North America coast to coast with high-speed electric vehicle chargers. The company was established by 8 large automakers: Toyota, Honda, General Motors, Stellantis, Kia, Hyundai, Mercedes, and BMW. The companies pooled their resources to create the Ionna charging network. Now, that was in early 2024. In late 2024, I was able to travel down to Apex, North Carolina, and be the very first journalist to interview Ionna's CEO, Seth Cutler, and its Chief Product Officer, Riccardo Stamati. And at the time, Ionna hadn't even opened up a single Rechargery, which is what they call their charging stations. But about a year has passed, and a lot of progress has been made in the roughly 10 months since I conducted that interview. So I asked Ionna if I could do a follow-up interview, visit their headquarters and their engineering labs, and talk to a few company representatives. Ionna agreed, so I'm heading down to Durham, North Carolina, which is where their headquarters are, and I'm going to interview Dan Bryant, who is the SVP of Site Operations, and also Phil Rach, which is their Chief Engineer of Charging Technology. Now, I plan to interview both of these gentlemen for more than a half an hour. So I'm going to break this video up into 2 videos. Otherwise, it would be probably an hour and a half long, which is way too long to hold your attention on EV charging. So in this video here today, this is part 1 of the 2 videos I'm going to put out. This is going to be the video with Dan Bryant. I'll follow up a few days later and post the video that I have with Phil Rach. With that said, I'm going to head down to North Carolina, talk to Dan Bryant. We'll get an update on Ionna's progress and where they're going from here. Let's get into it. All right, so I'm down at Ionna headquarters here, and I'm with Dan Bryant, who is the SVP of Site Operations. Dan, thanks for joining me here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
Okay, let's get this kicked off.
All right.
We'll start off with the easiest of easy questions.
Okay.
So how many sites does Ionna have right now, and how many charging bays?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think to kind of dive deeper into that question, I'd like to kind of take us back a little bit. I think roughly about a year ago, you were here, I think, with Seth.
It was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at that time, Ionna was just an idea to some extent, or is talked about. I think it was yet to kind of come into be like a real full network, right? It was very nascent.
We actually recorded that interview in a rented, like WeWork type of office. You didn't even have an office yet, but now you've got this great facility here.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I hadn't yet joined Ionna at that point. And so if you think about it, that was the idea. Now we're today at roughly about 32 sites going live, so it's 320 bays in total. We got 900 bays currently under construction or beyond right now.
Okay.
And so I think it's some good things going to be coming over the next couple months as we start to end this year.
Well, that's under construction. How many are open?
Open right now is 32 locations. As of today, we're opening our locations.
And do you know how many bays?
That would be about, I think it's roughly about, we're 300 right now. That'd be an additional 310 in total.
Okay. Yeah. So I know when I had come down and talked with Seth and Riccardo, we talked about goals for 2025.
Sure.
And the goal was 1,000 bays open by the end of this year.
Yeah.
I just heard a number in the 900s.
Yes.
Does that mean we're going to fall a little short?
I think we'll be pleasantly surprised by what we're going to hit this year. My team's ramping up. We're spending a lot of time on the quality side specifically to make sure that we're able to support this. A big focus for us is, sure, quantity is big, but having the quality at the site is huge. So we spend a lot of time investing in having the right partners, having the right infrastructure in place so that when these sites are up and running, they're going to provide the same level of service and support that we provide at 31 sites for 1,000. Yeah.
Okay. And honestly, I had thought that personally 1,000 sites in the first year, 1,000 bays in the first year was a lofty goal. I've covered other infrastructure companies, and I know the first year is always the hardest to get that ball rolling. Once you start rolling, it seems like sites just keep opening up.
Think about it, in February 2020, was it 4, right? There was only 1 employee, right? And then now we're less than 2 years later, we're here with a massive, significant amount of growth. That's going to continue into 2026. So I think we have over 3,600 bays contracted right now. So we have enough steam, right, in this train to keep rolling for quite some time.
Okay, have you set a goal on how many sites and bays you want to have open by the end of next year?
Of next year, we have, I think we've set a total goal to be about, I think it's going to be somewhere north of 200 sites in total. Yeah, I can come back and follow with the exact number. Yeah.
So how many states are you in now? How many different states are you in with fences up, with under construction?
Under construction?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that, but I mean, if you think about it in terms of like networks or hubs or metropolitan areas, we're starting to see like a lot of density and scale in Texas, Ohio, California, SoCal, NorCal, Florida, and along the Northeast. And then we're also then filling in a lot of corridor locations, so that we're not just the metro locations, but also getting from metro location to metro location. Total number of states, I just kind of named some key areas that we're focused on, but quite a number of states.
Okay, that was going to be my next question as far as corridors. As far as deciding where you're going to install the sites, are you focusing on areas or specific corridors? Because I noticed, being East Coaster, someone who has just driven from Florida to New Jersey, that 95 corridor is not well served yet. I have to go between Virginia to Florida. There is no Ionna sites yet, and that's a major corridor. So, I mean, do you focus on, like I said, corridors or areas, or just wherever you can get the sites installed?
It's a combination of both, right? I think we have, if you can see today, we have locations like Dallas where we have a significant number of sites. We then also have a lot of key corridors, like I'll use Kansas as an example. So it's going to be a nice balance of both of them, because people both need to get from point A to point B. Sometimes point A to point B is pretty far away, and we want to make sure that we're able to provide a quality charging experience that's driver first.
Okay, let's talk about a really important topic, and that's pull-through stalls.
Okay.
I think it's one of the most underserved areas of DC fast charging, regardless of the network. Particularly now that we have electric pickup trucks over the last, 3 to 4 years. I guess it's about 4 years now. There's been electric pickup trucks. It's hard enough towing and going long distance with a electric pickup truck because the range gets significantly hampered. But it's impossible to do it if you can't pull through. You can't unhook your trailer and back your truck in. I mean, you can, but it just makes a miserable experience. How many sites do you have now that are pull through?
Yeah, and I personally love a good pull through, so huge fan of that. We have a couple sites right now. I mean, we have a lot more in the pipeline. They're going to be having pull throughs. The nice part about this is a lot of the land that we have that we're deploying on, and we've purchased or have, or are leasing directly. So we have a lot more ability to customize, work, and drive more pull through sites than probably the average, CPO that's dropping stations into a parking lot somewhere. So there's a lot more space for us to play around with. So we're going to have a lot more pull-throughs coming through in the next, as we're deploying more sites.
Okay, well, you start off by saying you have a couple. Is that 2?
Currently 2 sites as of right now. With pull-through sites.
All right, and where are they? What states are they in? Do you know the locations?
We got Reynoldsburg. I'm going off memory right now. Reynoldsburg, Ohio, and then Garner.
That's right.
Yeah,
I was going to mention that. Yeah. So it seems like the average number of bays, what your sites are being installed at right now, are 10. 5 chargers, 10 bays, typically 40% NACS, 60% CCS. Is that 10 bay average site going to be what we should expect in the next year or so, or are you going to increase that a little bit? What are we going to see in 26 as like the average new installation?
It's a great question. So because we're leasing the land and the way we're purchasing it, we have a lot more flexibility, as I mentioned earlier. And so it allows us to actually put in more stalls in many cases than the average, couple stalls in the parking lot. I think we've all seen that historically. I think we'll see closer to 12 bays probably on average. Right now we're at 10. It's been great. I think you mentioned we have CCS and NACS on site, so we're catering to both connector types to make sure that everyone's able to charge on our sites. And yeah, it's so far it's been great deploying all that.
You are the only network that has both plugs on every site. You know that the connectors are there. You don't need to use need to use an adapter. I'm sure you're monitoring the NACS and CCS usage. You know, are you seeing a decent amount of NACS vehicles use the site, or is it still predominantly CCS vehicles?
I mean, right now, it's a good point, right? I think right now we have that split that you mentioned earlier. We'll continue to monitor and see how utilization's occurring, what vehicles are transitioning over from CCS to NACS, and then we'll go make that transition across the network, right, as utilization starts to pick up, because we want to make sure that everyone's able to charge, you know, with their native port selection. And then in addition to that, we're seeing a decent number of NACS also on CCS. The exact number is escaping me right now, but both sides are pretty, I would say, relatively well utilized based off of the ratio that we have deployed.
Since all of your sites have NACS and CCS connectors, I would think there'd be less of a need for a customer to use an adapter, but there still would be a need if you roll up and all of your native connectors are being used and you have an adapter, you can use the other plug. What's Ionna's position on adapters?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? We want to make sure that everyone's able to charge safely on site. I think I'm going to defer to Phil because he's going to go into a little bit more detail on that in a little bit.
Very good. Well, we'll hit up Phil with that question.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, uptime. You know, some of your competitors get dinged a lot for broken chargers and the time it takes for them to repair them. Now, you guys are still less than a year old. You've got all brand new equipment, so you shouldn't have too much problems yet, but you're going to have problems. There's going to be broken chargers, there's going to be issues where they need to be repaired. Talk a little bit about your uptime, what you have so far, and what processes you're going to put in place to get the chargers repaired that do break, and they will break.
Yeah, of course. I mean, uptime's a combination of two different things, right? One is like how often do they fail, and then when they do fail, how fast do you fix them, right? And so we do a lot of partnerships, you know, with our field vendors, with our hardware vendors, and so forth, to ensure that we have a tight relationship. So when something does break, we have a partner we can turn to who can help us resolve that really, really quickly. And what we're seeing today is really good success rates in terms of the overall performance of the stations, but we've also bred like a very specific mentality that I think is unique to Ionna around how we address issues in the field. And it's really a sense of urgency. We talk about like Ionna speed, driver first is another key tenet for us. And the focus around that is, if the connector is down in the field, we have to go fix it as soon as possible. So we have a joke, which is who's gonna get on a plane to some extent to go fix something. Sounds very heroic, but that's the kind of mentality we're breeding. And that kind of mentality scales really well as we're working with our vendors. And it also is contagious. So our vendors start to take on that mentality as well as they're fixing and solving issues for us. Because we don't just flip our service and field resolutions just into someone and say, oh, go figure this out for us. We're a key part of it. So we're there from like point A, from like detection of an issue all the way to final resolution. And not everyone plays such an involved role, making sure, pacing every vendor, pacing every partner to make sure something's being resolved. And then we're starting to layer in multiple levels of redundancy. So we have like a field service team, a third-party field service team. We're building our own in-house one as well to support that as a second layer. And then we're establishing all these forward operating bases of parts and people. So in some cases, our vendors are even pulling from our parts because they're like, hey, I ran out. And we're like, go pull from this location we have right here. It's sitting here in Dallas. And so if you think about it in terms of resolving an issue really fast, you need to get a warm body on site and you need to get a part on site. And parts are now, you're stuck in the logistics system. And so what we're doing is focusing on, hey, using these forward operating bases to get parts on site really, really fast. And that's been fantastic. It's worked really well for us. Uptime, just to kind of go back to the numbers, 99%. So we're greater than 99% across the assets. And a key part of that is one, they're failing less. We're doing a lot on the preventative side in partnership with Alpatronic to ensure that doesn't happen. And when they do, we're able to get on site really, really fast.
So that 99%, is that based on like successful attempts to charge, or is it like what do you because there's a lot of different ways you could
of
judge
course.
uptime.
Oh, no, trust me, I've seen all the different definitions. Yeah, so when I'm talking about uptime right now, I'm talking about NEVI, right?
Okay.
The NEVI definition.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we rigorously adhere to that, report on it pretty extensively, and that's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about queuing. Now, I would imagine because you basically since you started installing the chargers, you've got 10 bays in just about every location.
Yep.
So I would imagine that's not too much of a problem yet, but are you experiencing queuing in some of your locations? And following up on that, one of your competitors has a congestion relief effort going on where, particularly on sites with high utilization that are on major corridors, they don't let the customer charge past 85% because the vehicle charges extremely slowly after 85%. It could take you longer to charge from 85% to 100% than it did from 20% to 85%.
Oh yeah.
Are you thinking about doing anything along those lines?
It's a great question. So we spend a lot of time on site, actually my team specifically, interacting with customers, trying to understand the customer experience, and I would say a key positive feedback we get from everyone is the lack of queuing, right, which is great. I mean, and a lot of that is ties back to the fact that we've got so many bays, right, on site, in comparison with, 3 chargers in the parking lot, which is kind of the traditional model. And so that attracts a lot of customers coming in. And so as a result, we get a lot of really positive experience from the fact that there is no queuing yet on site. That being said, utilization will always continue to grow. At some point that will happen. So as it comes, we'll drop that in, but a lot of customers are happy that, there's no idle fees. They don't have to worry about any sort of queuing or waiting in a long line, trying to get charging. For us, it's about driving that. It's not just about the actual act of charging, it's about actually showing up, having a nice place to go. It's well lit, it's got trash cans, there's a canopy on site, and someone can charge easily without having any problems or having to just sit there in a poorly lit, with barely any chargers there.
Which is out there for sure.
Oh, for sure.
How about idle fees? Do you charge idle fees?
We do not.
You
No,
don't.
right now.
Is that something that you are going to consider as utilization goes up? No?
But potentially, I think right now we're very focused on driver experience and driver's feedback. So it's as I mentioned earlier, one of our key tenets is driver first, and so right now there's no need for that. And I think our customers are having a really good experience. We don't want to impact that in any way.
I'll land my unsolicited opinion here.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
think many drivers would support idle fees because on the other networks with the smaller sites, it's a problem where somebody just leaves a car and goes shopping for 3 hours, and so I think that might be something that down the road you might reconsider.
Totally agree. When you have three bays in a parking lot somewhere, then those are going to stack up really quick. And so when we talk about dropping in 10, 12, 16 bays in certain areas, there's enough area in that for people to charge easily, enter and leave gracefully without having to worry about queuing and so forth. So,
for now,
yeah, but it'll change. And so we'll continue to meet. So we're going to bob and weave with the market as it changes and customers have different feedback. We'll make the necessary adjustments to ensure that everyone's able to charge and have a positive experience.
Okay. Yeah. So I noticed just yesterday there was an announcement from Rivian that they now will have Plug&Charge on your network. How many different OEMs now have Plug&Charge on this network?
It's a great question. So in total, I'm going to name them all off, but we have Kia, Hyundai, Mercedes, BMW, GM, and
Ford.
And we've got a couple things more in the pipeline. They're going to be coming through that I think everyone will be surprised about in a good way. But yeah, those are all the OEMs you have Plug&Charge with. This creates a really seamless experience for customers at charging. As I mentioned earlier, we do these on-site customer visits, and Phil will go into more detail about those. But on the Plug&Charge experience, it's just amazing, right? Someone plugs in, starts charging, you just walk away.
Yeah,
it's ready to go.
So you don't currently have an app. I assume that you're working on one. Are you working on an app? And if so, is there an ETA on when it would be available?
I'm going to defer to Phil on that one. He's going to go into more detail about it. On the ops side, we're not as focused on that one. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. You use currently a vendor that's a very popular vendor these days as far as the chargers go. It seems like it's the charger du jour. It seems very reliable, high-powered, 400 kilowatt, can charge 2 vehicles at once, each getting up to 600 amps and 200 kilowatt.
Yeah.
400 kilowatt is a high-powered charger, but we're seeing EVs come in the market now that can actually take, I think there's 2 available in this market, or 1 right now. There'll be another one coming soon that can actually take a little more than 400 kilowatts. So the funny thing is, back when 350 kilowatt chargers came out, everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people said, we're not going to need to go higher than that. But now we're at 400, and I think we're hearing some EVs are going to be able to accept more. Is that something on your roadmap, that down at some point down the road you'll have higher powered chargers on the network?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think Phil can probably go into more detail, not to defer to Phil every time, but on the ops side, what we're thinking about, because there are, there's right now we have a really good hardware manufacturer and partner. The way we built our processes on the support side is that we see all these different partners and different hardware vendors as tools that we can work with. But we're also creating a support process that works really well, regardless of which vendor's in place, and so we can easily work with everyone to some extent. On the support side, it's really focused on, I would say, we call Ionna speed, which is how fast we're able to drive resolutions for our customers in the field, how fast we can get sites commissioned. That's a big focus for us.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of more power on site, cool. It sounds like a great idea. I think our product team's focused, heavily on what do our customers need and what's the best product to support them out in the field.
So, what about Canada? I have a lot of my followers always ask me, Tom, you forget about Canada in a lot of your interviews, and I actually did in a recent interview that I did. I forgot to mention Canada when I was talking to a different network, but I won't forget here today. What are the plans for bringing Ionna to Canada? Because Ionna is Ions of North America. Sure. That's what it stands for. Canada's in North America. So
I agree. Canada is in North America.
When are we bringing Ionna stations to Canada?
Right now we have it on the roadmap. We will be in Canada. Our first goal is to start somewhere first, and I think we picked the US to do that. And so we will eventually be going into Canada. That's 100%. That's definitely on the roadmap. But right now we have to start in America, and that's where we've chosen to initiate and start building out sites. And we have a lot of throughput right now. As I mentioned, we have like 3,600 bays that we've contracted, all in the US for right now. But the key thing is being able to deploy those out in the world and get people charging as soon as possible.
Give me an example of something that you thought was going to be more difficult than it turned out to be. I mean, I know so many aspects to this, but what did you think was going to be a bigger bear than it turned out to be?
Oh, good question. I mean, I've been in the industry for, I think, close to 8 or 9 years and worked with a lot of different types of hardware manufacturers, a lot of different CPOs and networks. I'm very pleasantly surprised with like the performance of the Alpatronic hardware, right? In terms of overall uptime, the collaboration with that group. It's been great, right? And I've worked with a lot of different other hardware partners out there, and it's been amazing. So I would say, nervous about the idea of transitioning, myself also transitioning into, working on the software and supporting a CPO to now being a CPO. And I was impressed by the partnership, overall.
Is there something that was harder than you thought it was going to be, that was more challenging, that hit you guys, kind of blindsided you?
Yeah, I think for right now, it's just new challenges, right? So I think it's nothing that's necessarily blindsided us. It's been more, I didn't think about that, right? And I think a lot of that ties back to we're doing something different that hasn't been done before. And it's like, okay, I guess we should change the placement of these trash cans somewhere that's better impacting for a customer. Or how do we create, there's new challenges when you introduce things like canopies, lighting. For example, we're doing a big program right now to install more lighting on sites. So we looked at all of our lighting and we said, it's okay, right? But it could be better. And so drivers also gave us feedback as well. Hey, the lighting could be better on site. And so now we're deploying with this big push to go deploy lighting to a specific foot candle or lumen on every single location to make sure that customers can see better, it's well lit, to create a better experience. So those are examples of things that it's like, okay, great, customers are giving us feedback. We need to go make sure that this is a key part of what we're deploying on site.
So you're going back and upgrading existing locations, the lighting, okay?
Correct.
It's not just new locations.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about vandalism. Have you guys had any issues or of vandalism yet? I mean, it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, of course. Totally going to happen. I've worked with a lot of CPOs. It has happened. It hasn't happened to us yet, knock on wood, but I mean, we understand that it will happen at some point, right? There is no avoiding it. At some point it will happen. And what we've done on our side is kind of looked at all the key things that could be vandalized. Cable cutting is a big one that everyone talks about. And then those forward operating bases of parts that we talked about, we stock enough so that if the site was, quote unquote vandalized, we could drop in and go replace whatever's necessary in a short period of time. I think nothing's worse than cables being cut and then just the station's just sitting out there in the world. And so what we have is, if that were to happen, we have kind of a business continuity plan that would allow us to drop in really quickly, rectify, and get our customers driving again. Because if vandalism will happen, we want to make sure it doesn't impact customer experience.
Okay. This question might surprise you, but
Sure.
Are you afraid of Walmart? And let me explain.
Yeah, sure.
Walmart has recently announced that they're going to make a big push into the EV charging scene. They have tens of thousands of chargers that they say they're going to install, roughly on the time frame that you guys are. They're the largest retailer in the world. They have the real estate. One of the hardest things for you guys is site acquisition and getting the real estate. They have it already. They have the money. However much your 8 partners put in a pot, Walmart could double it. It would be like you losing a $50 bill. So I'm watching them closely because I view them as potentially being that 800-pound gorilla if they want to be. We still don't know just how serious they are in doing that, but is that something that you're concerned about?
On my side, no. The key thing for Ionna is really the concept of Ionna speed, which I've said a few times.
Yeah.
But it's really that tenacity and that drive specifically to deploy sites. And in terms of site acquisition, I would say, obviously when you met with us about a year ago, did we have a lot of sites signed or contracted? Like probably not, right? And now if you look at it right now, like 3,600 bays contracted, ready to go. That's enough for us to meet quite a few number of goals, and that kind of momentum will continue on. It's not like we're going to hit 36 and stop. It's we're going to keep going. Yeah. So that coupled with the fact of I would say the people, the mission, and then the drive internally, I think the speed we're going at is unmatched, and you get to see someone really be able to match that.
And it is unmatched. I have to give you credit. Nobody has done as much as you guys have done in the first year.
Sure.
And I mentioned earlier, the first year typically is the hardest to get that ball rolling. I mean, within the 12 months, you didn't even have a headquarters when you started, like you said, and you didn't have a tech center like you have here, which I'll be visiting Phil next over there. But, I have to give you credit. You guys have really installed at a rapid pace, and we're hoping that you continue, which is going to bring me to my next question. There's been, in case you hadn't noticed, there's been an administration change, and the attitude towards electric vehicles has shifted dramatically in the Capitol, and that has sent ripples across the industry with OEMs. The OEMs, many of which are your founding members, are pulling back on their electric vehicle programs. They're cutting shifts. Their guidance is for lower electric vehicles now that the tax credit's gone away. Has that changed your plans at all as far as how many sites, how fast your deployment's going to be? Are you getting that from the companies that started Ionna that we need to pull back a little bit now, slow things up?
No, I think if anything, we're pushing our foot down harder on the gas. So I think you would probably agree, there's still a need for EV charging, right? Solid, quality, reliable EV charging out on the road. No? Disagree?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, so I think as long as that exists, we will continue to move forward. And I think so we're not holding back. Because as you said earlier, the first year we've gained a lot of traction. I would say we're just getting warmed up.
All right, I'll just correct you. You said you're putting your foot down on the gas.
Oh yeah.
You should have said you're putting your foot down on the ions.
That's correct. So, yeah, exactly.
Okay, and finally, let's talk just a little bit about the nomenclature of your sites.
Sure.
No other network has like a specific name for you call them rechargeries. And you also have 4 different kinds of rechargeries. I think that's a little confusing to people sometimes. Now I know on your website you explain what it is. You have boxes that show each thing. You don't really explain what the rechargery beacons are though. You have rechargery relay, rechargery at, rechargery, and rechargery beacon, right?
Yeah.
So could you maybe just just
go into a
briefly.
little bit? Yeah, of course.
go into-
From the ops guy perspective, I would say first and foremost, the key focus on all of these is regardless of the name, the experience is going to be a positive one for customers, right? On the Rechargery, Rechargery Relay, right, which is the site where we have canopy, lights. These are the ones we can hit a lot more density because they're easier to deploy. You can deploy them faster. And in those scenarios, we have trash cans on site, squeegees, and all these, and lighting, of course, is a key component of that. Those, as I mentioned, we can hit quite a few of different locations because they're easier to deploy than probably the other sites. If you think about Rechargery where we're partnered with Wawa, with Sheets, these are great partnerships, right? If you've seen the one that we have in Scranton,
I've been there a few
sites,
times.
yeah, it's fantastic. So, have a really nice canopy we just dropped in recently. So. In those locations, we're partnered with these key players in the U.S. and they're providing great amenities. They're providing bathrooms for our customers. Just a nice experience. Then you have the Rechargery, which is like the example would be the Apexes of the Garners of the world, which we have here.
Yeah.
And we've specifically chosen, right, those first 6 sites to actually drop in these different types of locations to kind of give an example of what we're capable of achieving and also get feedback back from our customers.
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly, it's been pretty positive. The Rechargeries, we'll take Apex as an example. We have, facilities, we have vending, we have a cafe on site, canopy.
Yep. That's yours. It's not a partner's.
It's all part of us, exactly. And the key focus there is just creating this really nice holistic experience for a driver when they show up that, hey, they can charge, right? And they can not just charge, but use the bathroom. They can get some food, have some sort of snacks. I think what we've taken is, I think in the past everyone's been focused on, can you charge? We're kind of like, we got you to the point where you can charge now. What else can you do in the area? It's kind of like when you go into a restaurant, you're not really worried if the oven's working. Like, it should just be working. You're experiencing all the different things about the restaurant, and that's what we're trying to drive at these locations.
And the beacons.
Yeah, beacon yet to come. So I think for that one, you'll be seeing something on that pretty shortly.
Because you just have like a smiley face
on
the website,
so and a wink, I think, kind of a little bit.
Okay, all right.
So I think we'll be breaking ground on the beacon pretty soon and share more about that. Very excited about the beacons, but I mean, across the board, I think across the portfolio, they're each catered to be able to support drivers in a specific area, also achieve the right density for charging across different metropolitan areas or corridors. And then again, the key here is driver first. We want to be able to make sure that when someone shows up, they're not just charging, right? Charging, they need to charge, but they also need to have a really positive experience when they're doing that on site.
Okay, well, that's pretty much all I have here for you today. I appreciate you taking the time out to chat with me.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to head into the engineering lab area and talk to Phil.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Yeah, thanks,
Appreciate
Tom.
it. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you do follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. And once again, I'd like to thank Dan for taking the time out of his busy schedule to sit down with me and answer all the questions that I had. Well, I guess most of the questions. He did punt a couple to Phil, which you're going to hear Phil's answers to those questions in part 2 of my Ionna update visit. One of the things I'd like to point out also was, and I was very thankful to Ionna for this, when I arrived at their facility, it's one big facility. They have their offices on one side of the building, and on the other side of the building, it's their engineering labs. They basically just said, have at it. Walk around, go wherever you want, take video of whatever you want. That's typically not the case when I visit infrastructure companies. They have restricted areas. They want to look at the footage to make sure you're not showing something that they don't want shown. Ionna was just kind of like, meh, go ahead, walk around, record whatever you want. We don't need to see the footage. we're not hiding anything. I found that really refreshing. And their offices are really cool. The office side has a really nice cafeteria where employees can just kind of get up as they want, go out, have snacks, coffee, it's all available to them. And then there's a big open space where they all work in. And on the other side of the building is the engineering lab, but there's windows where you could see through to the engineering lab. When I was interviewing Dan, you've seen windows behind us, that's the engineers over there. So it's kind of like separate space, but you can see each other. And another thing that I found really interesting, on one side of their office, there was a big gong. And I had to ask one of the people there, what do you use that for? Why is there a big gong in your office? And they said, every time we open a new site or have fences up and start construction of the new site, somebody bangs the gong. And I think that's a really cool thing. Everybody kind of gets excited when a new site is being commissioned or just beginning construction of it. So, and you kind of get that feeling with Ionna that the people there really are excited about doing this and want to do charging right. Now, the proof's going to be in the pudding. As time goes on, hopefully that continues. And I will continue to cover Ionna. I have a very good relationship with them. They've promised me access when I need access. So hopefully we'll continue with ongoing series and Ionna updates. But for now, this was the end of part 1 of this visit. In a couple of days, I'll post part 2 of this where I speak to Phil Rach. But for now, that's all we have here. If there's anything I missed, leave it in the comment section below. I tried to ask Dan all the questions that were appropriate for him. Obviously, I'm going to have a different set of questions now for Phil on the engineering end. But if I missed something, please leave it in the comment section. And the next time I have the opportunity to talk to Ionna, I will mention it. And listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.